I want to start with giving a quick shout out to our event partners, People Fluent, Aya Healthcare, Zipline Leadership Canvas, who share our passion for elevating people and building thriving cultures. They'll be joining us throughout the day, so if you see them in the chat, please say hello, and you can also learn more about what they do by visiting their website. And we're very grateful for their support and the expertise they bring to our community. All right, really quickly, here are some housekeeping items. If we haven't met before, hello, my name's Rebecca. I'm the community manager here at Bucket List, and I'll be your host for this event today. Really looking forward to spending the time together. And of course, if you have any tech issues or any other questions, just pop in the chat and I'll do my best to hop in and help out. Chat box is on. If there's a comment you want to share with every single person in the chat, make sure your blue drop down is selected to everyone, not just the panelists. Q&A box is open if you want to put in a question for us to address at the end. Professional development credits will be shared at the end of each session. And of course, we are recording all the sessions, so if you have to hop off for any reason, we'll be sending them out over email. We're putting everything onto a one-stop shop resource hub, and that'll probably be sent out early next week. All right, now let's take a moment to set the stage for the conversation. We really wanted to have a topic around retention starting from day one, just because turnover is still an issue that's really hitting healthcare hard. And at a recent conference, I was chatting with a leader who was sharing that it costed them $50,000 to replace every nurse last year. And so, recruitment, hiring, onboarding costs, all of that just really adds up. And so that's why this intentional retention really has to start from day one with onboarding that builds trust, connection, and recognition from the very first shift. Every early interaction is a chance to make staff feel valued, connected, and committed to staying for the long haul. And so for this session today, our first session, we wanted to explore how to build cultures that keep people with onboarding programs that reduce early churn, scaling things like connection and recognition, and really turning those critical first days into long-term retention. And so, because we know every team is different, we'd love to start by hearing from you. I will launch a poll. Is my poll launched?
Yes.
Yes, perfect. Awesome. And so we'd appreciate if you let us know a little bit more about how you feel about these topics, and your insights will just really help how we approach today's session and hopefully spark some ideas for your own organization. And as people are responding, because I know there are a few questions in there, let's take some time to introduce the panel. Sean, I'll pass it off to you to kick things off. And once you're done with the introductions, I'll launch the poll and we can talk about it.
There you go. Awesome. Well, thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Sean from Bucket List. I've been with the company for 4.5 years with a bunch of various roles in between now and then, but currently with our customer success side on the technical part. But yeah, it's really great to see everybody on the panel, talk about this subject. After 4.5 years, I've got my stories, my ideas, and hopefully be able to share some as well. But let's kick things off. Cheryl, I'm going to pick on you first because I've known you for pretty much those 4 years. So who are you? What do you do? And all that fun stuff.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Sean. Yes, I've had the pleasure of working with Sean over the last 4 years, which has been great. I'll say that. How about we start with that? So yes, my name is Cheryl Jansen, and I am the Senior Director of People Development and Engagement for Schlegel Villages. So Schlegel Villages is a family-owned and operated seniors living company, which is located in Ontario, Canada. So we have 18 locations, retirement homes and long-term care homes across the province of Ontario. We've got 4 more coming in 2026. So this topic is very near and dear to our hearts as well. Hiring for 4 new properties is going to be fun. And we serve approximately 5,000 seniors, and we have over 6,500 team members. In my role, I had the honor of supporting the organizational development and retention strategies for the organization. And fun fact, I started my career as a registered practical nurse, or some of you may know that as a licensed practical nurse. And it seems I'm a bit of a unicorn in the HR space as a nurse without any HR designations. So it's great to be here with my great colleagues and looking forward to the conversation.
Love it. Yeah, it's been quite the journey. Tanya, who are you?
Who am I? Thank
Who are
you.
you? Yes.
Honored to be a part of this panel and looking forward to engaging with the audience and also the panelists. Um, so as far as my background, I've been a healthcare HR practitioner for over 20 years, with 10 of those years also being in the diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging space. I am currently the VP of Human Resources and Organization Development at Maimonides Medical Center. For those who may not be familiar, Maimonides is Brooklyn's leading healthcare system. We have about 7,000 employees that currently work at Maimonides Health. And we have just joined the bucket list family and in the implementation phase of doing that. So very excited again to get that started. And as far as today, with regards to my perspective and what I'll be bringing to the conversation, my hope is to bring a conversation, is to really share my perspectives from a diversity, equity, and inclusion lens. So as we're continuing to have the conversation, you'll notice that my responses would sort of lend to that.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm excited to hear more and more about your journey of kind of utilizing the platform. And there was a strategic reason, Ralph, why I left you to last. It's because you're not part of the bucket list family. So explain yourself. Why? No, but who are you? What is your focus? And tell us a little bit about your organization.
Oh my goodness, we're continuing a theme that I'm not part of the bucket list family. I feel like I should sign off right now. Thanks, Sean. Hi, everyone. My name is Ralph Kellogg. I'm the Executive Vice President of People and Training for Lutheran Family Services. We're housed in Omaha, Nebraska. We're one of the largest nonprofit mental health organizations in the state of Nebraska. We also do work in the space of refugee services, adoption, and foster care. I also work obviously in the space of human resources, but I'm especially interested in and speak all across the country on mental well-being in the workplace and the importance of being authentic with mental well-being and how to create that in an environment so that people feel safe and secure in talking about it. And that goes with professional onboarding, recognition, ongoing performance conversations, collaboration, all of the things that we know that are important in the workspace. And so today, my hope is, along with my colleagues who are bucket list subscribers and users, shout out to them, that I can bring some perspectives from the HR space about how you can incorporate mental health into the workplace, talk about it openly and authentically, and create an environment that is collaborative and welcoming to everyone.
Love it. Yeah, no, it just had to bug you a little bit, but yes, definitely. We're just a tool to help companies really utilize their plans, and we always love those ideas as well. So, yep, here you go. Ooh, poll time. Becca, are you gonna chat about this poll?
Yeah, so it looks like a lot of people have responded to us, which is very nice. We have two questions. The first one is, which early experiences make the biggest impact on healthcare staff? And it looks like our top one is feeling included on the team. And for the second question, recognition moment matters most for the first week welcome. Are there any thoughts from the panel? And I think this will be a nice segue into our conversation. So opening the floor up, would anyone like to make a few comments about these results?
I'm not surprised that the sense of belonging is at the top of the list. To Tanya's point, healthcare is a relational business, and we give and we serve, and feeling that sense of camaraderie and belonging amongst the team is super important. So yeah, not surprised by that result.
Yeah, I would also say too, the giving piece of it, coming into an environment where you're supposed to be empathetic and connecting and understanding of people who are looking for help and who are looking for resources, that can be especially overwhelming when you're called upon to do that every single day. So knowing that you have connection to the organization that you're working with, and that you feel the sense of belonging and inclusion and support, I think is critical.
Yeah, definitely. I agree that the poll results are really aligned with some of the things that we'll continue to talk about, but ensuring that you have that connection early, as Ralph indicated, and that employees really feel seen. I know in the earlier phases of someone's career or joining the organization, there's always this need to ensure that they are compliant with whatever thing that they need to be compliant with within the first 30 to 60 days, but ensuring that you be intentional about having that human connection is really key.
Amazing. Well, thank you for your thoughts. Excited to hear you expand on all of those throughout our conversation today. So I will leave you to it. And Sean, it's your turn.
Oh, awesome. Okay, so let's kick it off. Really kind of on that theme of turnover. Why do you think turnover is so common in healthcare, and what do organizations often overlook in the first 90 days? Ralph, thoughts, ideas?
Yeah, this is something that we face a lot in the behavioral health space, especially with therapists. And I would say that a couple of things. One, a lot of times because healthcare professionals come with identifiable skills, whether it's in a hospital or a mental health space. They're trained to be nurses, to be mental health practitioners, things along those lines. And so oftentimes I think a mistake is made that when a need is there, you have a vacancy and you want a therapist to come in and work. Oftentimes I think organizations look at this as plug and play. Well, you know what you need to do, come in and do the work, and I don't need to handhold you, quote unquote, in how to necessarily do your job. And that may be true, but I think oftentimes what is missed is that they're working in a high touch, high empathy related field. And so by that virtue, you need to ensure that you are treating them in the same way, that you're being intentional with relationships, that you are being open and honest about challenges, that you are being welcoming with feedback, and that you are supportive in bringing them into the organization. People are people, and just sort of allowing someone to fend for themselves is never a good recipe for long-term employment. And I think the less someone feels a part of an organization when they start, and I think it's critical in that first few weeks, month, 90 days, the less they feel a part of the organization, the more likely they are to leave because they have no reason to stay. If there's nothing grounding them there through relationships or support, they have no reason to stay.
I would say, my experience, people leave hoping, their previous job, hoping that it's going to be different, when they go somewhere else. And not that jumping jobs or, frequent job changes is a bad thing, because that, sometimes that enables people to bring different skill sets to the table. But we find ourselves taking a really kind of concentrated effort at making sure that people understand our culture, that they know what we're all about. We're an organization that takes risks. Our residents go skydiving and snow tubing and dog sledding and, all these great things. And so I think, organizations often overlook, either underselling what they do or overselling what they do. And so people maybe just don't see themselves as a fit there. And so I think that's really important, is that you're clear and transparent with, your prospective employees, with your candidates, about what it is that makes your organization unique, and not overselling that to the point where you've made false promises that you can't, deliver on. Healthcare is hard enough as it is. We've got, clients, patients that expect a lot from us, and we need to protect our team members, and so we do a disservice to them if we oversell what it is that we're able to give them.
Yeah, Cheryl and Ralph, they definitely hit the nail on the head. The only thing that I'll sort of double down on is with regards to just recognizing that turnover in healthcare is due to staffing shortages. I'm sure many of us are experiencing that. Also, emotional fatigue and rigid structures that really don't meet the human needs of our workforce. And if we do not really make that human connection early on, we can see people get disengaged quickly, and that would ultimately lead to the turnover within that time frame.
Love it. Yeah, it's really that balance between kind of like the job is the job, but you can kind of make it a little bit more yours with that human connection, how you approach it, how do you support them and actually see them as humans as well, and kind of, yeah, as one cohesive team. I love those answers. Let's move to a community question. Creating culture where people want to stay, including creating environments where staff can thrive, feels like a monumental task. What are the first few steps that can get things moving?
We've thought long and hard about this at our organization, and about 10 years ago, we started a culture change journey, and really, struck out to change the culture of aging. Um, and that comes back to how we treat our residents, but also how we treat our team members, and our leaders. So you'll hear me use the word team members, that we feel like, we are part of a team, and we have what we call an inverted pyramid, where our team members are the most important, people, not the CEO, not the COO. We're all there to serve those that are serving our residents. And so making sure that that's clear to people right off the very get-go, I would say. So those first few steps to really, making people feel like this is a place they want to stay is culture reinforcing activities, making sure that they are brought into what it is that is special and unique about your organization. So, for example, within the first month at our organization, a team member will attend something called Village Traditions, and that's where they get to meet the CEO, the COO, the members of the leadership teams, hear from other team members, and understand our culture. And a leader will also go through something called Leadership Traditions, and you get to talk about the culture of the organization. So it's an investment, right? You're not only doing orientation, onboarding, and all of those good activities that help someone know how to do their job in your context, to Ralph's earlier point, but also what's the culture, and how does that play into to what they're doing. So I think an investment in culture reinforcing activities is important.
I would add that it doesn't require a massive overhaul to begin sort of building a thriving culture at any organization. I mean, to think about it, it sounds like a lot, but it's really not. You have to be intentional about it. So one of the first things I would say is that you really have to listen deeply, ensure that you're using the new hire feedback that you receive from the employees. Do stay interviews, which for most of you who may not know are different from exit interviews. Stay interviews happens way before to prevent, hopefully, that exit. Even looking at exit interview data to better understand sort of what those pain points may be for employees who decide to leave that particular organization. I would also say that training your people leaders. We've probably heard before, people don't leave organizations, they leave managers. So that first line manager is really key. So we have to equip them to really be what I refer to as culture carriers. And the last thing that I'll say is ensure that we create small wins. And what that may look like is ensuring that there's a warm welcome. When someone is starting the organization, potentially having a structured buddy system, and ensuring that you do consistent check-ins with the new hire, whether that's, the first week, the first 15 minutes of the shift, the first 7 days, 30, 60, 90 days, because they ultimately go a long way.
Yeah, I would add to that as well that when you're thinking about culture within the organization, I think a lot of times, and this was alluded to, that the people managers are critical to the process. But I would also add one additional thing to that, and that is also the executive leadership team in place. If the executive leadership team embraces retention, engagement, connection with employees, building relationships with intention, that can be woven into the organization's mission, vision, and values, and really become part of the culture, rather than, and I know we've all faced initiatives like this in our own organizations or at previous positions, where it's focused on for a time being and then it takes a back seat. I think to my colleagues' points, it's an ongoing effort, and the more intention you put behind it, particularly if the senior leaders are focused on it, and in a nonprofit organization, the board of directors, the longer or the greater impact it will have to not only promote some wins, some incremental wins, as Tanya said, but also to really permeate the organization and make substantial organizational changes.
Love it. Yeah, it's this. Sometimes it's just the small little tweaks here and there. You get in the data either from kind of those exit surveys or the stay surveys, and kind of just being able to adapt and show that the change is happening can really build up that momentum. Which brings us nicely to the next question of, can you walk us through an onboarding moment or initiative your team has implemented that really changed the game for early retention?
Yeah, I'll kick us off there, Sean. So, to Tanya's earlier point, you don't have to overhaul your whole system. Sometimes being able to, as an HR team or a leadership team, kind of go up into bird's eye view, perspective. And what we did was we took some time with our team, got big, huge white Post-it notes all around a big conference room, and mapped out every touch point that we have with our team members from the time that they apply to the position to their first day working for the organization. And we looked at all those touch points, looked for gaps, like what is happening, something that we wanted to avoid, and that we had talked a lot about as a group. And I would love to hear from people in the chat on this, is how many of you have started a job, you walk in on your first day, it's healthcare, so everyone's got a big thing of keys, right? The keys weigh our necks down physically. Everyone's carrying around this big thing of keys. You get given your keys and someone says, welcome aboard, and off you go. And we knew that we wanted those touch points. Like, we never want that to happen. That is our standard, that someone comes in, but all those touch points leading up to that point are so important. And when we took the time to go through all those touch points, get feedback from the team, how did it feel during your interview process? How did it feel during the onboarding, getting logged into the HRIS system? What bugs are happening? What barriers did you have? What roadblocks did you have? We got a better understanding of what we needed to tweak. And from there, we were able to create an outline. We call it First Day in the Village. It's a half-day experience for someone. They come in, there's no bag of keys. It's, getting walked through everything, a tour of the building, meeting the team member that's going to orientate you, meeting your leader. Well, you would have met your leader already, but, other leaders in the organization. And it was hugely impactful. We also started, to Tanya's point, 14, 45, and 90-day check-in surveys through that process, which was helpful, and started something called a team member me form. So we have a me form for our residents. They move in, we know all about them, their career, their history, what they love, what they don't love. Why aren't we doing the same for our team? Why are we not employing those same principles? If we welcome a resident so beautifully, we should be welcoming our team members the same way. And so that's really allowed for relationships to build with team, because they have the opportunity to review that with their fellow team members. And yeah, that was a game changer, both of those exercises for us.
Wow, I love that, Cheryl. We need to talk after. I think for us, I would say within the last year, what has really been a game changer for us is the implementation of an applicant tracking system. We've been in existence since 1911, and this is our first applicant tracking system that we've had, and it has really helped when it comes to ensuring that the experience is better for our new hires. Because for us, we really want the onboarding experience for our new hires to be around the core idea of belonging and ensuring that that starts on day one. Speaking of day one, the other thing that we implemented within the last year is really taking a look and revamping our new hire orientation, which is a 1 day in person. Previously, it would consist of 100 people, and it would be once a month, and it would be a snooze fest. That's the feedback we got. So ultimately, what we decided to do is to make it more often, so every other week or twice a month, ensuring that there's smaller groups, that it's more engaging. And that has really had a huge impact, especially when it comes to connecting folks to the core values of our hospital. And again, ensuring that sense of belonging from the first day. And if I may, Sean, I did see in the chat that there were a few questions about stay interviews. So just really quickly, what I'll say about that is there are interviews that happen for incumbent employees. And the questions that we include on there are things like, what would make you want to leave, whatever the organization is. So I'll just pause there, but just wanted to answer that from the chat.
Love it. Great
Yeah.
chance to call the chat.
I would say to Tanya's point, and this does lead to into stay interviews. We implemented those at Lutheran Family Services 5 years ago when I started. It's just a great way to get feedback. One of the things that we learned from the stay interviews was that our performance management process was not what people wanted it to be. So what we did is we moved everyone to an annual review cycle. We eliminated 6-month reviews. And what we do now are quarterly check-ins. They're more of we want to sit down with you, we want to review goals with you, we want to see how you're feeling, how you're doing, and really taking the tension and the stress out of annual performance reviews so that we get better feedback. We're more connected to our team members. We're showing that we're listening to them by implementing things that meet their needs rather than what's convenient for us. And we're getting almost real-time feedback from team members about changes that they're facing, obstacles that they're facing, and it does in turn almost serve as that stay interview as well. So we use both because we love our feedback, but I cannot stress enough how critical stay interviews are to the employment relationship. So yeah, great tool.
I really love that idea because we can always often just overlook, you've been here for 3, 4 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, and we could assume that you're happy, but this gives us an opportunity to have that good, open, candid conversation, which is awesome. And I just had a flashback of finding a orientation photo I was part of back 20 years ago, where it was like a group of 20 people, and I still have contacts with most of those people. And it was one of those opportunities where I think somebody in the chat mentioned like a buddy system. We had 20 buddies that were going through that whole experience together. And we just kind of had that bond, and it's been 20 years now, and we've all kind of separated out into different parts of the world, which is awesome. Love it. Okay, so let's move into the next area and ideas. So question will be, recognition isn't just a feel-good activity. It helps build trust, psychological safety, and a sense of belonging. What's the best way to recognize your team, especially at the start of the journey with your organization?
Yeah, I can jump in on this one. So one of the things that we do is try to establish the relationship with the employee before their first day. So we always make a practice of sending out a welcome letter from all of our executive team members to welcome the employee to the organization. It's just a card that is just a welcome, glad you're going to be here, can't wait to get to know you. That has a high touch impact with the employee. But then we also send out, hiring managers also send out a letter personally from them to welcome the individual to the team. We look at being intentional with our outreach, wanting to make sure that people who are starting with Lutheran Family Services begin day one feeling welcome, but not only that, feel as though that they've already got somewhat of a relationship established with the hiring manager. That letter, while seemingly a small thing, goes a long way to building that strong intentional relationship that we like to focus on within the organization.
Wow. I like that. We do send out birthday cards, so I'll add that also, Ralph, to our list of items. I guess for me, what I would say is that when it comes to recognition, it really has to be specific and it has to be personal. I also think it has to be accessible. So within those first 30 days, new hires, they really need affirmation that they belong and that they're adding value to the organization even early on. So that's what I would say with regards to just ensuring that it's very personal to that particular individual or the individuals, and that again they're affirmed with regards to that sense of belonging at the organization.
I agree with both Ralph and Tanya. I would say, and this is going to be my bucket list pitch here, Sean, since
There
we've
we go.
worked
We have to at
together
least
for
have
so long.
one.
You knew it was coming, but so I have two thoughts. First, we are bucket list customers, and when there's a new team member and they earn points for a variety of different things. So what we've done with our bucket list platform is we have aligned the awarding of points with culture reinforcing behaviors. So they're aligned to our values, our customer service credo, essentially. And so when a team member does something that aligns with that, they get points. And of course, then they can use their points to redeem for experiences, Schlegel swag, gift cards, and various things like that. And we have found in our villages where our leaders are super engaged with the platform, they're again, it starts with the leadership team. When they're engaged in it and they're putting those shout outs out there, the momentum builds and the team gets excited. And that's when you start to see the team jumping onto the platform and, way to go, Tanya. That was amazing, Ralph. Like, Sean, you're a rock star. Like, all those comments will come in, the funny gifts that you can use. So having something that is digital, that's accessible, is amazing. It ties into Outlook and Teams and all that good stuff as well, which is great for us. I would say also that having something that residents and family members can use to also recognize team members so that they are engaged in the process. We believe in a relational model of living. And what that means is, we are all in this together. We are one village. It's not, we work in the residents' home, but the residents see us as their care team. We are part of their family in a sense. And if you build really good relationships with residents and family members, there's this reciprocity, and kind of caring nature that happens between the group. And so we have a paper or Bristol board version of so we call our bucket list platform the Success Spot, and they get success points. And our boards are called Spot the Dot. And the dot is all of our customer service values. And so if I'm a resident and, Tanya really went above and beyond for me today, I can go to that board, take a sticky, and say that Tanya was present. Be present is one of our values. And she, took a moment to listen to me. If I'm a family member and I asked a question, of Ralph, and Ralph got me an answer really quickly, or followed up on a concern, I can take the follow through sticker, put it up on the board. So as a team member walking by that board, you're seeing comments from residents, from family members, from team members, from leaders. Those of us that work at support office, like myself, we're in the villages all the time also. And so we make it a point to use the boards, both the bucket list board, our digital board, but also the in-person board. It's those small drops in the bucket. I think we can all remember a time when a leader, a customer, a fellow team member, someone took the time to say something nice to us, big or small. It means a lot, and those moments stay with you. Healthcare is hard. It is challenging. We have depending on where you are, I'm sure it's all the same, but, legislative, benchmarks that we need to meet. For us, we've got the Ministry of Long-Term Care, constantly making sure that we're doing things the way that we should be, and that can feel punitive sometimes. And so when you can really focus on the relational aspect, that's, I'm a nurse. That's why I got into nursing from a relational perspective. That's really important to me. So if you can take the time to reinforce that, you're off to the races. Sorry, that was very long-winded, but I was on a roll there, Sean.
You got it. I wasn't going to stop you because you're
Okay.
covering a lot of great topics, but I think that's another key point is that these small little kind of like thank yous can go a long way. You might just be having a day and you're kind of focus on some sort of task or issue, and you get that little notification or you pass by that board, you get to see it. Really excited to see how you could utilize our new external recognition to bring in family recognitions into the mix, into the electronic world. Tanya, we'll love to see your journey because there's a lot of things. And Ralph, I'll just say, no, just kidding. I think it's a good blend. You don't always need a platform, but yeah, I think it's all these ideas can be transferred wherever your approach is and however your approach is as well. It reminds me of when I was in Omaha, Ralph, I met Nash from QLI, and he actually just launched a voicemail service. So anybody, family, friends, coworkers, colleagues can just leave a voicemail message. And that was like his way of ending the day, of just like hearing all these kudos and shout outs and just kind of echoing that back to the employee. And then one of his highlights was he actually called up one of the employees' family members from their original country and just talked about and bragged about how awesome their son was and how impactful they are on a day-to-day basis. And yeah, it was one of those cool little moments there. Awesome. Okay, so keeping in mind with time, let's move into the next one. And I'm gonna kind of focus more on kind of the manager side of things. So question will be, how can we engage managers who don't buy into recognizing their employees? And I also want to add into a little bit of a community question from Honor as well, is how do we support those new managers who might be struggling with recognitions, transferring from probably being recognized consistently as being a high performer, now moving into that role of somebody that has to do the recognitions and coming up with, how do you reach out versus being reached to? So kick it off with whoever feels the most with that question.
I can jump in. I'd love to hear what Tanya and Cheryl say about this as well. But one thing that I focus on with managers who, or leaders who feel that recognition just, isn't a priority or shouldn't be a thing, is to always go back to that Gallup statistic, which I think is great, that shows that 70% of employees leave managers, leave leaders, rather than organizations. So when you think that 7 out of 10 people are leaving an organization to find new employment simply because of a variable, a controllable variable, which is the relationship with their manager, that's staggering. And then when you point into the fact that it usually is 50% in terms of replacement costs for any employee to come in, not to mention the time of the recruiter, the HR resource, the manager resource, all of the work that goes into onboarding and redeveloping a relationship with someone, that also can play into a business case or a return on investment for somebody who may be a little bit more analytical or numbers oriented, or just needs to see a business case of why recognition is important within any organization. Lastly, what I focus on when I'm working with senior leaders who may need help to be convinced that recognition is important is on the employment brand. What is our employment brand in the marketplace? Do we have people that are flocking to work for the organization? If we don't, let's ask the questions why. Let's dig into some of that empirical evidence that's on exit interviews, on stay interviews. Let's look at our engagement surveys. Let's figure out what we can do to improve our position in the marketplace so that we are viewed as an employer employer of choice. And again, that's done with intention and with the idea that recognition, valuing people, valuing relationships, and making sure that people feel seen, supported, and have a reason to feel engaged is top of mind with leadership within the organization.
Love it.
Thank you. That's really great, Ralph. I think the only thing that I would add to that is I find often when talking about recognition that leaders or managers, they think that it's sort of an HR initiative that we should be leading, and it's really not. It actually is. And I typically reframe it as a leadership behavior. So one of the reasons we got decided to go with bucket list, and here's my plug, Sean, list is we wanted to ensure that they had the tools that really made it easy for them and that it didn't seem like extra work because we understand that they're busy, of course. So with that, again, just providing them the tools, making sure that it doesn't seem as difficult. And then the other thing that I'll add that actually works most of the time too, when it comes to convincing managers about the recognition um, practices is that influence when it comes to a peer. I think that that's really powerful because I tend to say, well, so and so, they've done it, and look, they have employees who are performing better or who are staying longer. So almost like that competition between the managers and the departments, and that seems to work sometimes.
I agree. I was working with a company on the East Coast that's kind of like the vitamin manufacturing business, and that's what drove their VP team to actually start to build that engagement as well as John, why is your team in last place? So there's never that one size fits all kind of answer, but I think again, adapting to who they are, how they want to kind of like approach that and show the success behind it, I think it will really drive some great success. There's so many questions in the chat. I just was like looking at them. And we've got a few minutes left, so maybe we move into more of a lightning round type of thing. I don't have any thunder sounds or anything like that to kind of walk you off the stage, but one or two sentences to some of these questions. What's one thing people can do this month to reduce early exits?
I would say that auditing their onboarding process, and really when you're doing that, do it from the perspective of the candidate or the new hire and not really from our side of the fence. And then just ensuring, again, as we talked about earlier, Cheryl, Ralph, and myself, ensuring that it's human and that it's personalized.
Love it.
Yeah, that's a great point. The personalized thing, I would add to that, getting, knee to knee, eyeball to eyeball with your team. You can't lead from behind a desk. We are in the business of supporting human beings, and that means that we need to be, human being facing. So I would say making that a priority to say, I'm going to get out of my office and get out there with my team and say to them, what is one barrier that I can remove for you today? And if you do that a couple times a week, even, the impact will be incredible. You get to know your people, you're removing barriers, retention will flow from there.
Love it.
Yeah, I would just say be willing to learn from what you've built, because there's always a way to build a better mousetrap or a way to do things better within the organization. I think sometimes HR folks in particular, we love people. We love making sure that people feel as though they're valued and recognized within an organization. But in our world, as it is today, you can no longer set and forget things. For anybody who remembers Ron Popeil, that used to be his favorite line, "Set it and forget it," with those weird contraptions he advertised. I'm dating myself, but I want to say that as you're doing things, think of it with the intentionality that I'm going to need to look at this in 3 months or 6 months or a year, because things are going to change within that time. And if you're not ahead of the change in terms of making sure that you're making a genuine effort to not only retain but attract people to your organization, you're going to fall behind very quickly. So it's the intentionality with process, being willing to be a student as well as a teacher, and making the environment special for your employees, whatever that is to them.
Love it. Yeah, I think my takeaway on that from everybody's responses is really just don't don't be stagnant. Always kind of look at the process, learn, adapt. If something's not working, don't take it personal if it's your pet project. Humans are humans, and we want to kind of like figure out what kind of really resonates well with your team. Love it. I see there's a lot of questions still kind of about the stay interviews and all that. So really brief question before we kind of start to wrap up the session. I see a question where it's, do those who complete stay interviews also do annual satisfaction surveys, from Carolyn? It feels like it's still kind of like all complimentary. It doesn't really override anything, but yeah, I think it's a good point to address if there's any thoughts there too.
We do. We do stay interviews, feedback sessions, fireside chats, lots of in-person stay interviews, similar to Tanya and Ralph. And then we still do an annual engagement survey and a well-being survey. And we have our leaders do a survey on our support office as well.
We, similar to what Cheryl and Tanya have said, we do the same thing. We do quarterly pulse surveys to make sure that we're staying online with our engagement objectives for the year. So we're constantly soliciting feedback from our employees. I think the thing, and it's organizational specific, you'll need to figure out what the tolerance is, but you want to make sure you're not over surveying your employees, because that can lead to survey burnout, where they just won't complete the survey. So you need to find that happy medium of what that looks like, and then benchmark what you feel is an acceptable return rate on those surveys. But yeah, to echo what Tanya and Cheryl have said, it's just a wealth of information that's there, and you just need to be intentional about doing it.
Love it. Yeah, great comments. It is finding that balance. You don't want to have those false answers where everybody answers 5 out of 5, and you know that's not really a truthful answer. And if you do it too often and you don't show kind of like what you're listening to and kind of like actioning some of the feedback, then also is a negative there as well. But yeah, I think it's great. Becca, I think let's kind of wrap things up, and then we can always move over to the QA side again if we have more questions and thoughts and ideas.
No, it sounds great. I'll start with the wrap-up shot. I'll let you sift through the comments and copy paste all the different questions people have been posting. I'll give you a bit of time. All right, so let us start for the wrap-up a feedback poll. It's because we're all about making all these webinar programming better and better each time. So would appreciate your thoughts. And if there's anything specific in the chat that you want to share, feel free to pop any feedback in there as well. And at this point, I would just love for each of the panelists to share a little bit more about the organization and the important work that they do. So I'll kick things off with bucket lists, and then I'll go around the circle. And so on our end, as you probably know at this point, Bucket List is an employee rewards and recognition platform. We really love working with healthcare organizations, and we also love delivering results. Just a few quick case studies on the right here. We helped Home Instead drop turnover to 40% in some of their locations, and Ellie Blumenson, after rolling out Bucket List, helped reduce their turnover by 15%, which is really great to see. And so if you're interested in learning more about what a rewards and recognition platform can do for your organization, we'd love to chat. You can hit yes on this poll that I'm about to launch. I'll launch it after. Or you can scan this QR code, and we're just doing a fun little recognition box giveaway for this virtual summit here. All right, I'll pass it off to Ralph first if you want to share a few more quick things about the important work that y'all are doing at Lutheran Family Services.
Yeah, so I'm always glad to talk about LFS. So here are some of the pictures of recent events that LFS has been involved in. The top right hand, I'm excited about. That was an event for our Global Roots program. It's a community garden program that we help support for individuals who might be living in food deserts. So we have community gardens that we will harvest and that we will provide food for individuals who may not have access to fresh vegetables, fresh fruit, things along those lines. The other two events, one, the lower right-hand corner, is a recent career fair that we held for refugees who are current or who are recent to the country or also current residents. And then the other was also another career fair that we held with our employment services team. Our organization's over 150 years old. We're in the business of helping people. That's all we do. And it is a pleasure to work for such an amazing, caring organization whose sole mission in life is just to do the right thing for people in need.
Thank you, Ralph. And you managed to stick in a couple more gold nuggets there on ideas for folks to do.
There you go.
Tanya?
Sure, thank you so much. I believe I shared earlier that Maimonides was founded in 1911. We are Brooklyn's leading health system, and our programs and centers of excellence in heart and vascular care, cancer center, breast health, neurosciences, women's health, orthopedics, and trauma. It really offers the most advanced treatment that there is available here in Brooklyn for the population that we serve. Also wanted to note that our core values at the organization is HEART, HEART, stands for honesty, empathy, accountability, respect, and teamwork. Our selection of that core value was intentional because we feel that the work that is done at the organization, the healing work that is done at the organization, is heart work. So I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
That is so powerful. We love a good acronym to remind ourselves why we do what we do every day.
Exactly.
All right, Cheryl, last but not least.
Awesome. Yeah. So I shared earlier, we are a family owned and operated business that has 18 retirement and long term care homes in the province of Ontario. We have a very interesting design that's kind of unique in the sector here in Ontario. We have what we call a village design. And so we have co-located long-term care homes and retirement homes. And so it's a continuum of care. So people can receive independent living, assisted living, memory care, and then move over into long-term care when they require long-term care services. Ron Schlegel, our owner, had this vision of a neighborhood design. And so when you walk into a village, it feels like a neighborhood. An office looks like the outside of an office, someone's front door, and the general store looks like a general store. We've also got a huge focus on innovation and research in the aging space. And so we have under our parent company umbrella, if you will, the Research Institute for Aging in Waterloo, as well as the Center for Learning, Research, and Innovation. And so we're constantly looking to change the culture of aging, research on aging, which leads us to do things like skydiving and hot air balloon rides and all that great stuff. So it's really, truly putting living first for our residents, and we're really proud of that.